are trying to teach creativity. That's the great thing these days. Now, the trouble is this. If we found out a method whereby we could teach creativity, and everybody could just explain how it was done, it would no longer be of interest. What always is an essential element in the creative is the mysterious. The dark, it's like the black in lacquer. The impenetrable, and yet the profound depth out of which glorious things come, but nobody can see why. Any experience that we have through our senses, whether of sound or of light or of touch, is a vibration. And a vibration has two aspects, one called on and the other called off. Vibration seems to be propagated in waves, and every wave system has crests and it has troughs. And so life is a system of now you see it, now you don't. And these two aspects always go together. For example, sound is not pure sound. It is a rapid alternation of sound and silence. And that's simply the way things are.
Right now what we're doing is we're going to set up the Incense for the shoot. And all the speakers and computers and recording devices are set up. I've been doing Incense for like 6 years now, ever since my freshman year. Just kind of saw it happen spontaneously, and then ever since then I've tried to light it better and make it look better and then record it better. So, but one of the biggest challenges is lighting. So we have a tent that we made, and usually what I'll do is I guess I'll start with the light first. I have this really powerful stage light that I got from the university before they threw it out, and it's like not the most easy thing to work with, but hopefully it'll be bright enough. And then what I did is I just went to the hardware store and I bought fire-resistant cardboard and cut a hole in it so that I could focus the light more closely.
Yeah, we're really close. We can still see a little bit in the background. Oh, yeah. That looks great.
Can you boost it a little bit more? Just make it a little bit brighter? Well, no.
I'm scared if we boost it any bit more, we're going to see the background.
Alright. That actually looks pretty good. So, now if I select the proper input, let's see if we get lucky. Just a few things that we're looking at here. There's a natural lag, right? So, because the sound has to push the incense, and that's just a little bit longer than what we hear it to be. So if we just if we take it to a video editing program and just move it back like 2/30ths of a second or something like that, you would see the connection much more. But basically what you're gonna see is these overall kind of movements, and your brain is gonna make up some things that don't exist, but it's also the things exist too. And what makes it hard to tell is that it's a complex wave. So right now we're hearing the drums and we're hearing the guitar and the voices, and all these sounds are coming out, and it's making it, all those sounds are affecting the incense wave at the same time. So we're not gonna get like this perfect wave, we're gonna get something much more complex, and something that's really dependent on, again, like the distance of the smoke from the speaker, the volume of the speaker, the heat, and the kind of the way that the incense is coming up. So what we're gonna do now is just kind of play with it so that we can see if the incense is gonna, if we can make the incense even more reactive to the sound. But what the whole point of this experiment is to basically get a musician in to have a feedback loop so that they can see what their sounds do to the incense and see how that affects the sounds that he makes. But it's also an opportunity for us to just use simple waves, use single notes or tones or chords to try to make the incense connection between the incense and the music more clear by removing the complexity of the sound wave. When I tell people I do this, a lot of things that I get constantly is they kind of laugh at me and say, "Oh, you were high while you're doing that." And no, we're not, and that's not the point. But it has like a bit of a stigma because it's incense smoke and music together, so. Think here for a second.
Sometimes I have like a good idea of what I want, but usually it comes from just me just hitting notes on a keyboard, and then I'm like, whoa, that chord sounds really cool right there, or that's a weird rhythm. I like how that happens, and then it kind of like, I don't know. I don't usually go in like I want my song to tell this story. It usually kind of tells its own story, if you know what I mean. It's like it evolves as I write it. I never really know how it's gonna end. It's like if you're writing a movie and you just start writing it without knowing what's gonna happen to the characters at the end. It's kind of exciting that way. I like not knowing.
This is kind of like the command station, and then in the tent is the incense, right? And so we put it in a tent because we want to isolate all the light. So it's high contrast. So the point is that there's a camera in there which will send the incense here, so that you're watching it as you're playing here. Right. Okay. So it's like an instant feedback loop, basically. Like when you press the button, you get to see what the incense does.
That's cool. How I started in music? Well, it wasn't entirely by choice. I mean, you know, in the Tronson family, we have to have one sport, one musical instrument, and like one hobby, basically. It's kind of how my parents do it. I did piano. My dad got me like a MIDI keyboard, like a really cheap one, like $40 maybe at Micro Center, and then GarageBand. GarageBand was awesome. That was like the tool to use in 7th grade.
An organ is more or less sustained. Let's try an organ. There are also going to be some notes that perform, much better keyboard placement. That one I can really see clearly. That's
the
awesome.
lower register ones,
You can even see when it repeats, actually.
It's kind of like I have an idea. Like I listen to a lot of music. Like I just kind of sit there with my headphones on and just kind of pay attention to how each layer of sound kind of mixes together. And I get a lot of inspiration from other artists like Bass or even Owl City, even still today. And it's like I kind of pay attention to how the percussion is set out, and sometimes I mimic that beat and then add my own stuff to it, and just like you kind of pick and choose different elements of other songs.
Have you tested like how like percussion instruments affect the
start with just like 4 measures of song, and then I'll just leave it. I'll be like, oh, this isn't good, and then I'll go into something else, and then I'll come back to that one and be like, oh, this is actually a good idea if I just expand on it. Because I never want to work on something so much that I get sick of it, and that's a good and a bad thing, because I start and stop a lot of projects, and that's kind of not a healthy way to write music, but I make it work, I guess.
Yeah.
I like those 3 notes. Still very dark and moody, but it's like kind of like raises some questions that obviously this is more like it sounds more like a film score, obviously, or a game score or something. And then I added the pulsing bass right there, just because I like the idea of a building driving cinematic. I'm still questioning. I used to do this thing called Daydreams and Machines. That was like my first big entrance into the electronic music world. And I was like really captured by the way that he made music. It was all on a MIDI pad, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. Just do a live show. Like you're kind of like a DJ, but you're actually playing it. You know, you see like deadmau5 and Skrillex, and they just like press the space bar and they go like that for 3 hours. And it's like, I wanted to kind of be that in between, where it was like, I'm kind of just like playing my music and being a DJ, but at the same time I'm actually doing something, so it's like entertaining to look at. The flexibility that medium gives you is like really big, because you can tweak sounds and like change the EQ, and like you can even add stuff while it's playing, and it kind of makes it a game where, what am I going to do here? I mean, it's kind of like playing Guitar Hero or something. I mean, you kind of, it's really cool because it gives you the option to improvise while still having like a set song to play with.